This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired.
And I am still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito, and I am co-hostless this week as Doc was not with me to record this very episode of the podcast. He is away at home enjoying his week, and I am left to do this podcast by my lonesome. But let me tell all of you that I will not be by my lonesome for the entirety of this episode, as I will be joined by LA Rams running back John Kelly, who is entering his second year in the NFL. He is an Oak Park High School product and Tennessee Volunteer product as well. And also joining me later on in this episode of the podcast is Aaron Johnson from Palace of Pistons.com. And you can follow Aaron at Johnson NBA on Twitter. And you can follow John Kelly on Twitter at JK Shuttlesworth. And before I get to my interview with John Kelly, I wanted to bring up that a big event is happening this evening at the Sound Mind Somebody football headquarters. And it is the Sound Mind Somebody 15th anniversary Dream Big Detroit Youth Sneaker Ball. And it kicks off at 5 p.m. with a VIP reception, which is followed by the event's program and dinner from 6 to 8 p.m. approximately. Entertainment will be provided by Larry Lee and the Back in the Day Band, and the master of ceremony is Pistons PA announcer and 105.9 FM's John Mason. And this event will be used to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the Sound Mind Soundbody Academy and honoring the impact of Detroit football, both past and present. With that being said, all proceeds raised from tonight's Sound Mind Somebody 15-year anniversary celebration will benefit the Sound Mind Somebody headquarters and the programs of the Sound Mind Soundbody Foundation. Now, John Kelly and I chatted all about his time going through SMSB, about the impact it had on him as a young man, and how it's made him into a better man now on and off the football field. We also talked about how he as a rookie made the Super Bowl with the LA Rams, playing for Sean McVay, what that is like, playing in the same backfield last season as Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson. All of that and more with John Kelly right now. So I am pleased to be joined by John Kelly of the LA Rams. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm very good.
Appreciate you for
Now, how
having me.
cool is this Sound Mind Somebody's sneaker ball going on later tonight?
It's definitely a wonderful event. I mean, this is a blessing, you know, just being able to give back to the community in such a positive way. You know, something like this is beneficial and it's going to hopefully spike the amount of athletes that we can continue to produce out of the city of Detroit. So, man, this is a huge blessing, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
So what kind of impact did Sound Mind Somebody have on you growing up?
Well, first and foremost, you know, everybody always talks about how it get hot in the summertime, you know, so that's usually a lot of the time where people, or myself in particular, a lot of people get in trouble or find themselves in predicaments where, you know, your life can possibly change in an instant. So with Sound Mind, Sound Body, it was one of those things that kept me out of trouble, but not only did it keep me out of trouble, it helped me understand the bigger meaning of just taking advantage of opportunities. You know, having a guy like Curtis Blackwell and the whole staff, Coach Brock, everybody, you know, it was always a great supporting cast of guys who always had great intentions for all the players that was coming out to the camps and all the players that was involved in 7-on-7, but they also wanted greater for us, you know. So it always, you know, I hold it dearly to me whenever anybody talks about Sound Mind, Sound Body, or Max X, or any 7-on-7 things, because I know what it's done for me. So it's been huge.
What is your greatest story regarding somebody that you can tell my listeners and I right now? So a fun experience that you had that is very meaningful to you to this day.
We talked about it earlier. So we went to this is just me dealing with Coach Blackwell in general. So we got the 7-on-7 team together, and we went to Indianapolis for a Nike HSPD camp, and it was sponsored by the NFL. And all the guys from Detroit, we cracking jokes on all the other teams. We were all kind of just like, cracking jokes and having a good time, having fun, all while they were having a speaker. So at the time, Coach Blackwell, he was kind of fed up with us. We was, just cracking jokes and kind of being disrespectful. So he put me out because I was the ringleader cracking all the jokes. So he put me out the auditorium for the meeting. And then I started to see the rest of the team come out, and he set us all down on the curb, and he just gave it to us. He drilled us, you know what I mean? And when he sat there and talked to us, I know it sparked the light bulb in my head, not only just me, though, and everybody else, that, Coach Blackwell, he really cared for us, first and foremost. He never told us to do anything wrong. He never was going to be a guy to tell you wrong. And he always he was definitely one of those guys who we knew had our best intentions. So when he did that, it kind of snapped all of us back into place. And we end up actually going down to that tournament and winning the whole thing. So that was a huge accomplishment in my whole 7-on-7 journey. And that was something that always stuck dearly to me, just that time that he had that talk with us, because it really showed me, like, man, this dude, he see what everybody else don't possibly see in us. Everybody probably see a bunch of ignorant kids from Detroit, that don't got no sense, that don't know how to act. But after we had that conversation or whatever, after he did what he had to do and said what he said, it clearly showed that we know how to manage ourselves. We got sense. We got intelligent kids, and we got competitive kids as well. And that's what it showed, because we went out there and took on the best of the competition that they had and came out and we prevailed. That's something that always sticks to me. It's a lot of little stories that I can talk to you about, just like with the experiences that I've had with Coach Blackwell, because, I've been around with Sound Mind, Sound Body, and Max X for so long that, we like a family at this point. So, we shared a lot of moments together.
So Curtis would give you some tough love at times.
Man, absolutely.
And when it was necessary for you and your boys, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He had never shy away from me. And the thing about Coach Blackwell is he knew how to communicate with all the kids. Like, some kids, you can be a little, like a kid like me, you can be as rough as you. Like, he was treating me like his own son. Like, he had come outside, he had come and pick me up, drive me all the way to Pontiac when I didn't have rides to go to the places that we needed to go, help me also with college trips and things like that. So Coach Blackwell was always a guy that was able to provide helpful resources and things like that in times where we needed them the most.
So what should people know about Detroit football?
I would definitely say that one thing that you can see in a lot of kids that come out of Detroit is a competitive edge. It's something that's like an intangible that's not necessarily visible. And I always tell people I never was the fastest kid, the strongest kid. You can say I wasn't even the smartest or whatever, but I know that I go out there and compete. And I know a lot of us had a huge chip on our shoulder, just coming out of the state of Michigan. So, coming out of Detroit alone. So I definitely say that's something that I feel like flows through a lot of us, is that competitive edge and that chip on our shoulder.
And now in the NFL with the LA Rams, just had your rookie season, and you went to the Super Bowl as a rookie, too. How great of a rookie campaign did you have?
It was solid. It was all right. It was more so, for me, I feel like it was a great learning experience. I got a chance to play under I played with multiple MVP candidates. You know what I mean? Like, we had a very great team. I had great people to learn from, whether it was at the running back spot with Todd Gurley or just learning the work ethic from like a guy like Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a good learning experience, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for me, because I'm ready to get back out there for sure.
You brought up Todd Gurley already. You also play with C.J. Anderson. So as a fellow running back, what did you learn from those two individuals?
Well, they work differently, and their bodies are shaped differently. They got different games. So they're two completely different individuals. But I was able to, take, I would say, the best part of both of their games and incorporate it into my own just by being able to learn the way that I learn. A guy like Todd to be, somebody who would, coach me up through the floor of the game, tell me about things that, I might see once I get my opportunity to go out there. And somebody like C.J. is a lot more preparation before game day, just some of the little things that he did prior to the Sunday. So, I was able to – we got guys like Malcolm Brown as well, another guy who's been in the league for a minute. It's always been some guys that we've had that I was able to learn from. So it was, I feel like we had a really good running back group.
And everybody thinks your head coach, Sean McVay, is this genius.
Yeah, he is.
Is he really?
Yeah,
and just tell me a little bit about what you learned as a rookie, learning under him as your head man with the Rams.
The thing about Coach McVay, which is most important, our number one rule, first and foremost, and this is just about our only rule, is, be on time. And one thing about that you learn about Coach McVay is he's very, very, very detailed, so everybody talks about him being a genius, this, that, and other. He is. That motherfucker, he know what he's doing. He know what he's talking about, too. So he's very detailed, and that's something that I took away from just year one dealing with Coach McVay and being able to play under him. So, yeah, he detailed for sure.
So you guys won the NFC. You got to a Super Bowl in your first season as a rookie. What would you like to accomplish as a second-year pro?
Just win a Super Bowl. We got so close.
So is that going to happen?
That's the goal. We're gonna take it one day at a time, one day at a time. Because like you said, that was year one for me, and I got through out there and I've went through all of the OTAs, preseason games, regular season games, playoff game, then the Super Bowl. So we understand and we have a blueprint to what we did last year that was able to accumulate the success that we had. So hopefully we can throw it and tie it all in together and work out the kinks that, kind of altered what we wanted to accomplish last year and get everything done this year. So, that's the ultimate goal, is to bring home that championship. We were so close last year. I feel like we're going to make some additions and we're going to make a few adjustments and we're going to go back and do the same. And this time we're going to get the results we want.
So a couple of quick hitters. I know you're a great running back, okay? But you skateboard too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, when did that start for you, and how good of a skateboarder are you as well, John?
Well, it started some of my earlier years. If you ain't seen my skateboarding clips, go check me out on Instagram at JK Shuttlesworth. And on Twitter, just go ahead and I'm going to make sure my boy, tap y'all in with that. But I've been skating for a minute, man, and being able to be out in L.A., it's a wonderful opportunity to just be able to connect with some of those guys who I looked up to and admired in the skateboard community as well, So me being able to have this platform in the NFL, it's allowed me to be able to do so. And they see it's authentic. I've been skating like I was a skater before I was a football player. So
Interesting fact.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably didn't know that about you too, John.
Yeah, I definitely was a little misfit. I feel like the field was more natural, but skating was like my first love.
So J.K. Shuttlesworth for your social media handles. Where did that come from?
He Got Game.
Okay, and I thought so. So you really liked that movie then growing up, I guess.
Yeah, I like Ray Allen. Shout out to my boy, Jesus.
Now, how different is Detroit from L.A.?
It's way different.
In what way is that?
To say the least, it's way different. Detroit is home. It's a wonderful place, but it's not home. It got its perks, but it ain't home.
Just not the same, right? It never will be the same for you, for a guy that was born and raised in Detroit.
Of course not. It ain't gonna be the same, but I love LA I love LA as much as the next person do.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave you with this. If you weren't playing football, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't playing football, I'd probably be on some. It can expand from a list of things that I can possibly be doing right now. But I hopefully be still involved in the sport, but I'll be skating and doing as much giving back in community work as I possibly could be doing. So that's probably about it. I'll just be one of those guys that's constantly giving back and, trying to better our community, because that's what's most important, just being able to build up and leave your mark in the legacy that you want to be able to have and create and that can continue. So I can see myself doing that.
Anyone aspiring to become you today, become an NFL player, what is your word of advice to those out there?
Well, if anybody is inspiring to be anything like me, first and foremost, it's going to be 100 John Kellys, and I hope to see 100,000 more John Kellys. It's been 100 before me, but I can just tell everybody who would want to have success to just continue to work hard, continue to never give up or never let anybody tell you otherwise on your dreams, and just continue to, chase your dreams. That's all I would tell anybody is just chase your dreams and be you. That's all you can do is be you at the end of the day. So,
be you, authentic, 100%, right?
And
what
chase
you
your
are.
dreams, exactly, and never give up. Because, the day you give up, somebody else is going to start working on it. So.
And with that being said, John, I'll let you go, man. Great talking to you, and have fun tonight, too, at the Sound Mind, Sound Body anniversary celebration here at the SMSB football headquarters.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Guys, hope you enjoyed that chat of mine with John Kelly, who is a skateboarder as well, of all things. So an interesting factoid there provided by John Kelly, who said he loved skateboarding more than football growing up, and now in Los Angeles, he is able to experience something that's always been a passion for him with skateboarding and really enjoy it to the fullest because of LA and the scene and how skateboarding has been big in Los Angeles for many, many years. So, as is the case with all episodes of Two Bad Hombres, this very edition of the podcast is brought to you by Detroit City Sports. And Detroit City Sports is having Nico Goodrum come in next Saturday to sign autographs. To find out more about that, all of the individuals coming in to sign autographs at Lakeside Mall, at DC Sports specifically, please go to DC Sports' website at DetroitCitySports.com. And as I had mentioned before, I also had the chance to get in touch with Aaron Johnson of Palace of Pistons.com to lend his thoughts on the Pistons playoff matchup with the Bucks. And also, I asked him to give to me a reason for why Pistons fans should be excited about this first-round matchup for the Stones, in which they are the 8th seed facing the best team in the NBA in the regular season this season in the Milwaukee Bucks, led by the Greek Freak himself. Now, I don't have many high expectations for this series and what the Pistons will do in it, but Aaron Johnson was around to try to get all of us intrigued with this matchup. And first and foremost, here is what he had to say about the matchup on paper, about what the Pistons have to do to try to stand a chance, at least win a couple of games in this series. And then he does get into his reason for why Pistons fans should be amped up for this first round series.
Hello, listeners of Two Bad Hombres. Aaron Johnson here from Palace of Pistons.com, a blog that covers the Detroit Pistons and has been covering the Detroit Pistons since 2016. I want to thank Vito Churko for having me on today. Just going to talk about the Pistons making the playoffs. They will take on the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and Detroit sneaks in, coming in as the 8th seed off of a win against the New York Knicks to end the season, but they have a much mightier challenge when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. In 4 games versus the Bucks this year, the Pistons have come away with 0 wins, so they're 0-4 against Milwaukee this year. Doesn't bode well for Detroit. Milwaukee has the best record in the NBA, have the best offense in the NBA, and one of the top defenses, as well as one of the top rebounding teams in the NBA. When you look at the Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP candidate, is the standout player, but Detroit has actually done a pretty fair job defending him so far this year. In their 4 meetings, Giannis held to just 20.8 points on the season. He averages over 27 points per game, so held him in check in scoring. His assists were down to just 7 per game against Detroit. He also averaged just under 9 rebounds, while averaging 4 turnovers against the Pistons, higher than his turnover per game average throughout the regular season. But the rest of the Bucks roster, alongside Giannis, is the real issue. Chris Middleton had a resurgent all-star campaign year this year. Eric Bledsoe with a career season after somewhat being exposed in the playoffs last year against the Boston Celtics. And of course, the addition of Brook Lopez, a huge factor. Then when you factor in the likes of Malcolm Brogdon, the newcomer in Nikola Mirotic, George Hill, the emergence of DJ Wilson, who had a very quiet rookie season after being drafted out of the University of Michigan, but has come along and played a nice role off the bench for Milwaukee. He's playing well. The Bucks are just a very deep team. You can't forget a guy like Sterling Brown, who's a capable wing who can defend and slash to the rim. There's just so much talent on this Milwaukee roster, and Detroit is going to have to find a way. If they're going to win, if they're going to make it a series, win a game or two, they're going to have to find a way to try to contain Giannis and then the rest of the Bucks roster, and that's going to start by defending the three-point line, an area where Detroit has struggled at as of late. But the biggest questions lie with Giannis and, well, who's going to play for the Pistons? Blake Griffin missed the last game of the season for Detroit. He's been hobbling with a left knee injury, but he didn't play. His status for game one as of Thursday is undetermined yet. Dwayne Casey said, we'll just see when game one comes if he's going to be able to play. That doesn't sound too good, so it sounds like the Pistons could be without Blake Griffin for the first game, maybe the entire series in general. We are not exactly sure on that. Then, when it comes to defending Giannis, who's going to be a completely different animal in the playoffs, who on the Pistons can do it? Detroit lacks a true small forward on their roster besides Glenn Robinson III, whose rotation minutes have been very sporadic to say the least this season, even though he's played pretty well when he's gotten in after being booted out of the starting lineup. But when he's come in off the bench and played a reserve role, he's done a nice job. Nonetheless, with no true wing getting serious minutes so far this year that has the size and has the length to even factor against Giannis, it seems like the best option to try to defend him would be Andre Drummond. Drummond has had a great season on the defensive end, blocking shots, stealing passes, stealing the ball out of the ball handler's hand. He's been great on the defensive end this year. He's made serious strides on that end of the floor, and putting him against Giannis with his length, with his wingspan, with his shot blocking ability, when Giannis likes to go inside, which he does like to do often, you're gonna want someone tall enough to alter his shot at the rim, and Andre Drummond can do that. He's quick enough to try to stay with him out on the perimeter, even though that's not his strong suit. He may be able to just do it, and he may just be the best option that Detroit has. Quickly here, before I wrap up, I want to talk about why you should be happy that the Pistons will be playing in the postseason. This is the right step for a franchise that needs something. They need something to get going for them. This is a city that needs something to get going for them. The Lions are not a good football team. They haven't been. The Tigers, even though they've started the season hot, don't project to be a great baseball team. The Red Wings just missed out on the playoffs. They need a pro sports team. The city needs a pro sports team, and the Pistons franchise is looking to win. Now, they could have been the 6th seed this year, no question about it. But they fell off a little short. They took some injuries, and they made it in anyway. So let's see what the fight this team has, and let's see this playoff series as an opportunity for the likes of Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard, Bruce Brown, Wayne Ellington, all those guys to get some playoff experiences. Those are guys that could be on the roster and should be on the roster in the foreseeable futures, though. Even if Blake doesn't play, these playoffs mean something for the Pistons. You should be happy they're there. You should be cheering them on. You should be supporting them, because asking them to lose games goes against what sports is about. Sports is about competing. Sports is about winning. And the Pistons went out, they competed, and they won enough to make it to the postseason. No other team in Detroit right now is a postseason level team, and the Pistons are. So be happy about that and support them. The Pistons and the Bucks will play their first game of the series on Sunday night at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Again, thank you to Vito Churko for having me on Two Bad Hombres. This is Aaron Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter at AJohnsonNBA. Thanks so much.
And thanks to Aaron Johnson for that insight on the Pistons' first-round matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks, which tips off Sunday night at 7 p.m. on both Fox Sports Detroit and TNT. And first game being at Milwaukee, obviously Milwaukee with the home court advantage throughout the duration of this series, which I am not as excited about as Aaron Johnson is, to say the least. Now, for me, it comes down to this when I look at the Pistons. The Pistons blew a chance at getting the 6th seed as the season went along and could have had a better shot to win a first-round series, or at least to make it interesting in the first round if they would have claimed that 6th seed. Instead, capturing the 8th seed, the final spot in the Eastern Conference side of the playoff bracket. And when you are the 8th seed, you are up against something, to say the least. And your odds of winning are not very high and are extremely minimal. And you look at how the Pistons played down the stretch, and it wasn't very positive. Now, they went on a stretch of losing against the Blazers, followed by losing to the Warriors, the Nuggets. They won 2 after that against the Magic, then the Blazers. But then lost to the Pacers, back-to-back games. Lost to the Thunder, lost to a team they could have and should have beaten at home in the Charlotte Hornets. And then had to come into the final 2 games of the regular season and win both just to qualify for the playoffs as an 8 seed, of all things. So getting the 8 seed and a chance to be swept is how I view it in the first round against the Bucks. So once again, it's not exciting when a team that was supposedly built to win ends up going 500. So is a very mediocre basketball team that is stuck in a rut with a lack of direction moving forward as a franchise. And how I view it, the ceiling of this team this season would have been a 6 seed. In the future would be a 5 or 6 seed as well, with this team as it's currently assembled. And because of the contract situations of guys like Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, those are bloated contracts that take up a ton of the payroll for the Pistons moving forward. And because of that, they are restricted in what they can do to add to this team to make it better, to make it more of a contender in the near future. So going into next season, this Pistons franchise will still look much like what it does right now, resembling a team that is very, very mediocre. And because of that, once again, going into next season, the Pistons' best-case scenario are right around what they are this year. A 41-41 team that can do a little bit better, I think, sneak into that 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, maybe, just maybe the 5th seed. But that all relies upon Blake Griffin staying healthy once again for the duration of the season, which he did until the very end of this regular season, in which he did get bothered by injury. And now going into the postseason, too, he will be hobbled. And right there, the reason why the Pistons, I think, will get swept by the Bucks too. But anyways, I already talked about that. For next season, he's got to be healthy for the entirety of the season or for the majority of it once again. Can that happen? There's no guarantee for that to be the case. Andre Drummond as well has to play just like he did this year, and I think be even better, develop more of an offensive game. And honestly, I think we've seen the best of Andre. So going forward, as fans and pundits alike, we're not going to get much more out of Dre offensively. He is what he is at this point. And then Reggie Jackson, who is constantly hobbled by injury too, and constantly not good enough at the point guard position as the facilitator and floor general of the Pistons. So they could use an upgrade at point guard, use an upgrade on the wing without a true wing defender, a Stanley Johnson-esque player who was limited offensively with the Pistons, but could play some D, could stop a guy on the perimeter, and maybe the best offensive player of the opponent. Whereas right now, how they're currently assembled, there is no player that is able to perform that duty. Because of that, too, in this series against the Bucks and Giannis, there's nobody that can guard Giannis. Maybe, in the paint you got Dre and his length, and maybe it affects Giannis' shots and attempts at the rim when he's close to the rim. But outside on the perimeter, there is truly nobody that can defend Giannis and these elite perimeter players. So Pistons have to add that in the offseason as well. And there's just not a lot of wiggle room with this roster. Not a lot of young talent that you're excited about and want to build around moving forward. And Luke Kennard, I know, is young. I like him as a three-point shooter, but what else can he do? He did develop, got better this year, sure, but how much better can he get? Has he already hit his ceiling? Just like a player who's been in the league longer, in Andre Drummond. Because I think the same thing can be said about Luke Kennard, that he has reached his peak. He is not getting any better at this point. And this Pistons roster collectively is not getting any better at this point either. And with all that being said, that was my diatribe about the Pistons going into the playoffs as the 8 seed and also about their near and long-term future as I see it right now. And the playoffs as a whole, the team that I think sticks out to everybody once again as the most legit contender for the title is the Golden State Warriors. Now, this could be the last time, though, they reign supreme, as Kevin Durant could be leaving in the offseason. Boogie Cousins more than likely will be. You got all these guys, Klay Thompson as well, could be leaving this offseason. And the Warriors are my team to beat. I mean, I can't pick against them, so still my team to beat for this year. And the thing is, I heard a very good point brought up by Rick Bucher recently, longtime NBA reporter. And he brought up how the team that perhaps will have the best shot to defeat the Warriors is that last team that gets the Warriors in the playoffs. Meaning, if the Warriors advance to the NBA Finals, which is being predicted by the masses, that the Eastern Conference team, the team that comes out of the East, will be the team with the best shot to dethrone the Golden State Warriors. And I kind of agree with that, as the Warriors making another long playoff run. Could they end up just being tired out, and then the team in the East that ends up playing them in the finals is just healthier, fresher, perhaps at that point. And whether it be the Bucks or the Raptors or the Celtics or the Sixers, whomever it may be, that team just might be fresher by that point in the playoffs and have the advantage over the Warriors because of that. You have Giannis and the Bucks. That's a great offensive team, a team that can play elite D. So that team might be the team that can beat the Warriors once and for all. LeBron, I know, did it the one time with the Cavaliers. But, man, that's like a distant memory now. With him in L.A., the Cavs being this horrible team this season. And the Bucks is currently structured, led by the Greek Freak, who should be the MVP this season, I think pose the biggest threat to the Golden State Warriors. The Raptors, led by Kawhi Leonard, you could say have a nice shot, and I think would if they get to the finals too. The Sixers haven't always played up to par this season, despite all of their talent. The Celtics, the same thing can be said about them. Kyrie Irving, not the greatest season. Gordon Hayward wasn't the best this season, coming back from that severe injury. And it looked like himself at all times this season. Marcus Smart now is going to miss time in the playoffs. All of this stuff added up makes it look more and more like it is the Bucks' season to get to the finals after being a 60-win team in the regular season. And guys, that's all I got here. I've got nothing else to say. Thanks once again to John Kelly and to Aaron Johnson for both joining me on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. Without the doc, John Charles Macaroon from Doc and Jock. I love the guy, and I'll be back with him next week for another fresh edition of the podcast. And once again, a big shout out to DC Sports for sponsoring this and every single edition of Two Bad Hombres. You can follow me at Vito Jerome on Twitter. Follow the podcast network on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Our website is DetroitSportsPodcast.com. And make sure to also check out the Sound Mind Somebody 15-year anniversary celebration, which is taking place this evening, starting at 5 p.m. Once again, it is commemorating the 15th anniversary of the Sound Mind Somebody Academy and celebrating at the same time Detroit football, both past and present. Guys, it's been a pleasure speaking with all of you. Adios, and have a great weekend.